Hi, thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon, everybody. We're talking lists today, so I'm going to share my screen with you right now. And let's dive in. Let's do it. We're going to take questions at the end. So if you have any, you can stick them in that chat box, just as Maggie said, and I will be sure to get to as many as possible. So welcome to 5 Habits That Kill Your Productivity and How to Optimize Your Time. You're in the right place. You're sitting there, you're thinking there's a better way to get things done, but maybe you haven't figured out a system yet. Maybe you're frustrated that you don't get more done in a day. If you hear me on that, just put a little Y in that chat box. I feel like this happens to a lot of us, right? You look at your list and you're like, why didn't I do all of these things on this list? Maybe you feel a little overwhelmed with all the ways to get organized and be productive, right? Every other day you're seeing things on social media of what the most successful people do before breakfast and what they do at 4:30 in the morning and all these things. It's a lot of advice out there. So how do you know what to really hone in on, what will work for you? Here's what we're going to cover today in this webinar. We're going to recognize the habits that are actually holding you back. Ways to prioritize and rework your list to get more done. Proven productivity tips that will make you more efficient tomorrow. That's a good one. And the one tactic that will change how you approach every single task, email, phone call, basically everything you do. Okay, so why me? Why Paula? Well, I'm a procrastinator. To be quite honest, I love to just wait till the last minute to get things done. I get really distracted very easily. I see something shiny, I get really excited, a new email comes in, and off I go. And I'm kind of a perfectionist. I've sort of, been better through the years about this, but it's something I recognize about myself that it's like, oh, it just needs to be just perfect. Just one more thing. And that really sets me back. So I learned how to overcome these things. Despite all of these things, you teach what you most need to learn, right? So I figured out a system and a way around all of these little quirky things that you may share with me. And one of the ways is because I have been a television producer, an Emmy award-winning TV producer for close to 20 years. And most recently, I was at Fox News Channel in New York City as a senior health producer. So I produced all kinds of health and wellness content. And now I work with experts and entrepreneurs to help them get their message out into the media in a big way through media training and also through video. But in a control room, in a newsroom, the deadlines are super tight. Things happen really fast. And the news comes on the air with or without you. So as a producer, you have to stay super laser focused and know exactly what you're doing so that you can get all the things done so that your segments get on the air at the right time. Because without that, you will lose your job, basically. You won't be able to stay in the game. So you have to be really focused. So working in that environment really helped me in on how can I actually be more efficient with the time that I have. I won an Emmy Award, which was really, really exciting. And the way that I really got to that point in my career was that because of my list making and because I was so organized, I really set myself apart from some of my colleagues, because when there was an assignment or there was something, I was already making 2 lists of what needed to happen next, who we needed to talk to, who needed to do this, who needed to do that. So when we were coming out of meetings, I was already, on the ground running. I already had my roadmap to get to. And your bosses, they acknowledge that and they see it. I was a real success at work, but I was falling flat at home. My husband and I were looking for an apartment in New York City, and there we are. We were living in Queens at the time, and we wanted to move to Manhattan, and it's very daunting. I don't know if any of you have looked for an apartment in general, but looking for one in New York City is especially difficult, and it's a kind of a painful process. So we were very, very confused by everything we saw. We got distracted every time we walked into a different place, and I was overwhelmed. I would walk in and I would see a wine fridge, and then I would be off looking at the wine fridge, and then we would leave, and I'd say, oh, wait, how many closets were in that apartment? And were there hardwood floors? And, do you remember what floor that was on? So I would leave and I'd say, well, there was a killer wine fridge, but I didn't really know anything else about the apartment to really make a great decision. So I felt really overwhelmed by all this. So what I did was, instead, I handled the task like I would at work as a producer. I created a checklist. So every time that I go out on a shoot as a producer, or create a segment, I know everything that's going to happen basically before it happens. Every question I'm going to ask, every shot I'm going to get, because, I was working with doctors a lot of the time, and they're really busy. And so it might be that we're in the middle of an interview, and even though I've done this job for a very, very long time, distractions happen. Things pop up, right? We might be in the middle of an interview and the doctor might be called away and have to go see a patient. And so I need a roadmap to know, what questions did I ask? What do I still need to get to? And make sure that I get all the shots that I need, the doctor walking down the hallway, the procedure, all of the things that I needed to make sure. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna do the same thing that I do at work because it works. It's super successful. I'm gonna do that when we do this apartment. So I created an apartment checklist. I visualized the apartment, any apartment. I wrote down every single thing that I needed to pay attention to. What floor is it on? How many closets are there? How close is it to the subway? When is it available? Every single question I wanted to ask when I walked through. I had a roadmap. Every single time we went into a different apartment, we used the same checklist, and it was just a system, and it was very, very easy. And I became obsessed with lists. And I thought, you know what, this is really great, because we were able to systematically find something that really worked for us. And what ended up happening was a friend of mine said, hey, can I have that list? I know when you guys were looking for that apartment, can I have your list? So I gave her the list. And from there, it started to build my brand. I had no idea that my brand would be, surrounded around list making. But I realized that not everyone does this in the way that I do. It's something that came easy to me to systematically think in this way. I could teach other people. So I created a blog, listproducer.com, 7 years ago. And I had an intention of writing a book, but a very wise friend of mine said, who had been an author, a New York Times bestseller many times over, said, do not write a book right away. Start a blog, see if you're interested in it. See if you have enough to say, see if other people care. And then if you feel like it's still a thing that you want to talk about, then you can start writing a book proposal. It was the best advice I ever got, because then the book came out a couple years ago, about 3 years ago. Listful Thinking came out, which is my book. And, it has been translated into many, many languages, which is very exciting because I do get to meet list makers all over the world. This is a conference that I spoke at where people came. The woman on the right there, I don't know if you can see, she's holding a list. She came and wanted to show me her list, which was really fun. I've gotten to do a lot of speaking, keynote speaking, and also workshops all over the country, and it's really great. And I've also been featured in the press. So as a producer, I was on the other end of this. I had to think through, okay, how can I pitch myself to get out in the media? Because I needed credibility. I needed, you want visibility for your brand and for your book, but also I wanted to serve people and help them. So I've done that in many different media outlets, which is really fun and exciting for sure. Now, remember this. I love this quote by Oprah. You become what you believe. This has stuck with me my entire career, from wanting to be a newsroom producer to wanting to be an author to, being a speaker. What you put out there, you get back. And I believe it so, so much. So you become what you believe can also play a role in your productivity and your list making. If you have the mindset that I'm disorganized and I never get anything done and, I end the day and I just feel overwhelmed, that's how it's going to continue. I have to be honest with you. But if you believe that you can stay on top of your stuff, get more done in a day, and really target your attention in a way that will make you more successful, you'll do it. You become what you believe. Just keep that in your head anytime that you're feeling like, how am I going to get through this day? It has helped me so much in my career. So I will leave that little wisdom nugget with you. Now, let's get through those 5 habits, because I really want you to be able to take away some really useful tidbits. Now, habit number 1. The problem with a lot of this productivity stuff is us. You, ourselves, we're the problem. I'm sorry. I know it's really painful to hear, but you're part of the problem. Number 1 is you make excuses. I do it too. You say, hey, I'd be more productive if I had more money, right? I could throw money at a problem. I could have some assistant do it for me. I mean, that's technically true. It is. But Stop focusing on what you don't have, and let's focus on some free stuff, because there are free things all over the place, right? Pen and paper, okay, it's not really free, but you probably just have it right around you in your office or something, right? So you should be using a pen and paper every single day to write down some kind of list, and I'll go through how I do mine. To-do list apps, there are a lot of them out there. And what I suggest is that if you're going to use an app, give yourself 2 weeks to really try it out, right? Because so often people will download, after this webinar, you'll download all these apps and you'll say, oh, I really want to try all of them. Please don't do that. Write them down, maybe download them, but try one at a time for 2 weeks and see if it sticks, see if it really works for you. So Evernote is a great one that I love. Initially, I didn't love it though. It was really hard for me to sort of understand how I could use it. And when you start using it more, then you really understand the value of it. And what I'll say about Evernote, and I've written about this on my blog, listproducer.com, if you want more information about it, but it's kind of like a trunk. It's where you keep all your information. I don't necessarily make too many lists in there other than packing lists. So just before I got on this call, I actually have a trip that's coming up next week. So I was in Evernote looking at my packing list from previous times I've been to this destination. So I could just kind of, duplicate it and add to it. So it's a vault for me. I keep tax information in there. If I'm taking a class or I'm at a conference, I write notes in there so I can keep, everything in one place. So it's a really nice organized place to keep things. Wunderlist is one of my most favorite to-do list apps. So this app you can use both, on your phone, and then there's also a desktop version, which I like, because if you're working in an office and you think of something that you want to add to your list, you can do it right from your desktop, and then it syncs up with your phone. And I use this a lot for things I need to buy. So if I need to go to Sephora, or I need to go to the store, or I need to, I'm running out of something, in the kitchen or whatever it is, I put it in Wunderlist. That's how I typically use that. So I compartmentalize how I use these apps. I don't use one app for everything. I have a different app for different purposes, which for me, that's how my mind works really well when I segment that way. That might work for you. It might not, but that's how I do it. The other thing I like about Wunderlist is that you can share your list with other people. So I have a business partner for Lights Camera Expert, which is the online course that I created to help experts and entrepreneurs get and keep media attention. And my business partner's name is Terry Chispicio, and she and I have lists in Wunderlist of things we need to talk about. So if it's, you can't always like pepper each other with emails or, texts or whatever. So it's like, let's just write this list together. And then the next time we're together, oh, I needed to tell you this. I needed to tell you that. It's a really good catch-all. And other people I know use it with their significant other for grocery lists and things like that. So you can both add to it and be on top of your game with that. Now, Todoist is another to-do list app that I do actually use for to-dos. The thing I really, really love about it is that it integrates with Gmail. So if you're a Gmail user, it will integrate right on the screen. So at the bottom of your screen, the Todoist interface, I guess, is there, and you can see your list right there. And actually, when you get emails, you can add from Gmail, you can add it right to your list. So if it says there's a to-do there, you can just add it, and it just automatically goes in there. And I just love it. For me, Todoist is what I use to actually track to-dos, but I do use pen and paper a lot, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, there are some other apps and sites that are free that I really do recommend. Pocket is amazing. This is for grabbing all of those really cool articles that you wanted to read about what people do before breakfast to be more productive, that you see scrolling by on Facebook or on social media, and you're like, oh yeah, I should read that. Oh, I'm really interested in that. And then you go do 100 other things and you get distracted. Pocket is the place to keep all those things. So if you have that app, you can add any article you want. And so I love it because, when I have some downtime, or sometimes I will schedule it into my calendar time to look through Pocket, to look through some of those articles that I wanted to read through. Or if you, maintain, like for me, I maintain a couple of Facebook groups for online courses that I have. I'll come up with things that I want to share with my community and share with my clients. And so I'll put those in Pocket and look at them later, and then share them when I'm ready. This is a really cool one. So write this one down for sure. If you hate waiting online, waiting on the phone to talk to customer service, Get Human is for you. So the way that it works is that you go to gethuman.com, and they also have an app, I believe. And what happens is, like, let's say you need to call Delta, right? Let's say you want a refund or whatever it is, but you don't want to wait through the whole tree and, the phone tree and listening and all this stuff. So what you do is get human, you find it you find Delta, you click on it, you put your phone number in, and they will call you. Delta will call you when you're next in line. So you don't have to wait. It's not a waste of your time, right? You're sitting there on the phone like this, like kind of waiting and half doing things. You just, set it and forget it, and then someone will call you. It's a great time saver. It's just one of those annoyances that you want to just get out of the way. Unroll.me is excellent if you're like me and you love a good ebook or download or 10% off. And so you sign up for all of these, newsletters that then you're like, wait, I don't really even want this anymore. And the problem is that you keep getting inundated with these emails. And then, it takes you time to delete them or look at them or unsubscribe. If you go to unroll.me, you can unsubscribe for free. It shows everything that you're subscribed to, and then in one click, you can unsubscribe. It's really great to be able to see it in one place. You can do it on your desktop and just kind of go through and get rid of them. Now, focus is... it's tough to stay focused. So I do play some games with myself, and Pomodoro is an app. It's basically a timer. So the idea behind Pomodoro is like that little tomato timer, and Pomodoro in Italian means tomato. So the guy who created the Pomodoro technique named it that because it's supposed to be 25 minutes of targeted time. So you're supposed to spend 25 minutes on one task and keep your focus. Now, for me, 25 minutes is kind of a long time. I have a short attention span. So I look at things in 10, 15-minute increments, and I do set timers. And so Pomodoro will help you to focus for that time. And so you're supposed to be working on just one task and not get distracted. It's a training tool in a way, but I really, really love it, and I recommend that you try it out. Self-control is one that you can use for your desktop. And what it does is it helps you to not get distracted by social media. So you'll put in which sites you want to block. So it won't let you go on Facebook or Twitter, whatever it is that you tell it, it will block that website. So you can't just in the middle of working, jump on there and then, for a set amount of time, it will block it for you. And I can't tell you the value of a little meditation. So because I covered health and wellness for over 10 years, I was really tapped into the wellness world. And Calm is an amazing meditation app. And at first, when I did stories on meditation, I didn't think it worked. And I thought, oh, here we go. This is some woo-woo thing that people talk about. And I got to tell you, I'm all in on this. I've started using Calm, which it has a free version and then a paid version. And you do 10-minute meditations, 5-minute meditations, whatever it is. And every morning I do 10 minutes. They talk you through. And it just starts out your day really in a very nice way. But also I've found, and there have been lots of studies done, that meditation does help your productivity. It helps to calm you down, and it helps you to make better decisions in the moment. So for instance, when someone runs into your office and they're like, hey, I need this and I need this and I need this, first what you would typically do is jump into action and start doing those things. But what meditation does is it really helps you to kind of step back and not react right away. You really think through, okay, what is the best plan of action before we all start getting crazy and start doing this and doing that when I was working on this other thing? It really does just let you kind of take a breath, step back and say, okay, let's tackle this the right way, as opposed to just jumping in. I'm telling you, it sounds crazy, but it works. So put it on your list. All right, another excuse that you have is you say, I'd be more productive if I had more time. Okay, well, guess what? There are 168 hours in the week. It's a lot of time, actually. So how are you spending it? One way that I really, really find to be efficient is to batch tasks. So in the same way that you would not wash one sock at a time, right? You're not going to bring one sock to the laundry and then the next one and the next. Don't do that with your tasks. So batch your tasks together, like things go together. When you're paying bills, pay it once a week. I do it every week on a Saturday. That's my time where I look through, and if there are no bills to pay, great, I go do something else. But I have it all, scheduled so that I'm not doing it piecemeal. So then it's just like, here and there and everywhere. It's exactly the time I do it. There's 4 of them to pay, done. Same thing with meetings. When I was working at Fox, I did meetings at 11 a.m. and at 3 p.m. Those were the 2 times that I had, and I did them, mostly on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I had other things going on the other days. So if you're able to batch your tasks, if you think about it in this way, right? If you call your dentist and you say, hey, I need an appointment, and they say, okay, I only have 11 and I only have 3. Which one do you want? You're going to pick one because you want to talk to, you want to go there, you want to, see that dentist. It's the same thing for you with clients or patients or whoever you work with. They will pick the time that's available. So don't make yourself completely available all the time. Batch your tasks. Some people do it on one day. They only do in-person meetings on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, whatever. You got to figure out what works for you, but being able to batch those tasks makes you more efficient. Okay, habit number 2 is that you multitask. I mean, how many of you are doing this, right? All the time. You're doing this, you're doing that. Oh, let me just do this one thing. You're on the phone and you're also typing. Well, here's some wise words. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop to look around once in a while, you could miss it. Do you guys know who said that? I might be dating myself by putting this up there. But if you guess it, just stick it in that chat box. It was Ferris Bueller. I love Ferris Bueller. And it's so true. You're so busy doing a million things that you really miss the good stuff, the stuff that you really should be focusing on. And, you're missing too much. So here's a fix that I found. And it sounds kind of insane, but it really does work. Just say it. Instead of multitasking and jumping on something else, really hone in on what are you supposed to be doing. So I repeat a task like a mantra. If I'm writing a blog post and that's what I'm meant to be working on right now, I will sometimes either circle it on my to-do list or write it down, just write blog, like right there and circle it, whatever. And then say in my head, like I'm writing the blog. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm writing the blog. And then when other things pop up and I see a shiny thing and I'm like, ooh, but here comes a Facebook message, I'm like, nope, you're writing the blog. So you have to keep yourself, it's training. You have to train yourself to stay focused. And it works. Here's the thing. If you don't have time to do it right the first time, when will you have time to do it again? When you're, segmented and here you're doing it half here and half there and you're not all in. So really focus yourself to do the task right. You know how it is. Like for me, for writing or for doing slides and things like that, I need to be in the zone. I can't be doing it, 5 minutes here, 4 minutes there, a couple. When you get in and you do it and you're really focused, that's where the magic happens. So allow yourself that time. All right, habit number 3 now is that you say yes and you do everything yourself, right? I mean, how many of us are doing that? You can say yes for sure. Stop doing this to yourself, okay? You have to become an essentialist. And this is something that I've learned. Rule-based thinking has really helped me. And it was all in this book. So if this is not on your reading list, it has to be. It's called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And it is amazing. It will change the way you think for sure. So simply put, it's clarity for determining what's most important, okay? And so here's how it really works. You have to have rules. You have to say, I'm only doing calls at 11. I'm only doing them at 3 o'clock, or, whatever it is that will keep you focused. So instead of saying yes to everyone, this is Tim Ferriss, who is a big productivity expert, speaker, super famous. He wrote the 4-Hour Workweek. And for him, his criteria, his rule is if he gets, some sort of request or invite, for him, if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no. Okay, that's cool. That's great. That doesn't work for everybody. I get it, right? If your boss asks you to do something and you're like, oh, I don't really, you know what? This is not a hell yeah. I'm going to pass on that. Like, I get that you can't do that, but for some of the other things, right? So some of the cocktail parties you get invited to or networking or whatever, if it doesn't really make you super excited, maybe it's a no. That's his rule. It could be yours. Here's another one that I like. There I am with Marie Kondo, who some of you might know from her book about clearing clutter. And I love her. She's amazing. She's from Japan. There I am at the 92nd Street Y getting my book signed, totally thrilled. She was adorable, did not speak any English, only Japanese, and she was still so charming. But her whole thing is that if you hold an item as you're getting rid of clearing clutter, you hold an item in your hand, and if it doesn't spark joy, right? You don't get that like, oh, I love this. I'm so happy I have it. You get rid of it. Right? It's just an instant. That's the rule. So the same thing for things that you take on. If it doesn't spark joy, it's a no. Now, there are some things that sometimes you have to do. I get that. But there are ways around it, right? You can offset to someone else. You can say, you know, I can't do it right now, but could I do it at a different point? Instead of just saying yes to everything and inundating yourself, there are ways that you don't have to really be a victim in this way. All right. Habit number 4 is that you mix your lists. This happens a lot. Unmix those lists. I know it sounds simple, but here's how you do it, okay? You should have different lists for different goals. So just because you want to climb Mount Everest and you want to get milk after work, those things don't need to be on the same list. So what I do is that I separate my daily list. I make a daily list every day before I leave work. And what I do is on the left-hand side, I actually do it the opposite of this. This is a great notebook that I really like from knockknockstuff.com. They have really cute, quirky paper. And I do the opposite. On the left-hand side, I do my work list of what I'm doing that day, what I need to do. And then on the right-hand side, I have my home list. So then that way it's separated in my head, and I don't have to think about, oh, wait, which one should I prioritize? Which one should I do? I sort of already know. My brain doesn't have to decipher what's what. And then splitting tasks. This works for a lot of clients of mine, splitting your tasks into before lunch and after lunch. So you think through, how do you work best? Are you, really into writing in the morning, or do you like to talk more? Set all of your appointments before lunch then, your phone calls. And then after lunch, if you want, then you feel more productive, you want to be writing, or you want to be creating, or whatever it is that you do in your business, set that after lunch. And so just really write your list in that way so that it's a roadmap. Number 5 is that you procrastinate. I get it. I do it too. I'm a huge procrastinator. But here's why we really do it. Number 1 is fear. It's like, hey, I don't know if I know what I should be doing. Maybe I don't want to do this so much. Maybe this is out of my comfort zone. Also, lack of knowledge. Maybe you just don't know how to do it, right? Oh, you didn't start a blog, you didn't write a book, you didn't do all these things because you just didn't know how to do it. Or you feel overwhelmed. You're like, oh, this feels too big, and so I'm just going to keep figuring it out. When I figure it out, you need some support around those things. That's how that works. Well, one way to fix procrastination when it comes to lists is to make daily to-do lists. Make your list the night before you leave your desk. I do it every night, even now that I work for myself. Every night I look at the next day and I run through every single thing that I need to do. Be super specific. So don't just say, like emails or presentation. Be specific. Say, write back to Brenda about, Friday's presentation. Like very, very particular, specific. Only include tasks you have time and resources to do that day. Okay, so don't put something on there like write book. You're never going to do that in a day. And what happens is you set yourself up for failure. And you look at it and you're like, oh, I didn't do that again. You couldn't have possibly done it. So instead, maybe it's that you brainstorm an idea, or you look for some books on how to write a book, or whatever it is. So make sure that you can actually get that done, set yourself up for success. Now, we went through a lot of stuff today, and these are the 5 main habits that are holding you back. You make excuses, you multitask, you say yes to absolutely everything, and you mix up those lists, right? Also, the procrastination is a problem. So I hope that I gave you a couple of ways to get through your day so that you can be a little bit more efficient tomorrow. And I promise you, those rules, if you have a rule that you set for yourself, it really does help. For a while, I was going to a lot of networking events after work. And I had to cut it down. I had to say, okay, I'm doing like 2 times a month. That's it, because it's too much. So just having those kind of things, and that is really, really helpful. And I have a little freebie for you guys if you're interested. I created a list making kit, which has all kinds of templates for you, to-do list templates. That's how I set up my to-do list, the way that you see it there. And so that you can use that template. There's a couple for packing and grocery lists and things like that. So if you text the phrase, so as one word, list lover, to 44222, you will instantly be added to that list, and I'll send you some tips and tricks on how to be more productive, and you'll also get that list making kit. So I hope that this has been really helpful for you, and I'd love to take any questions that we have.
Thanks, Paula. That was really great.
Sure.
I'll remind everyone, if you have a question, you can use the chat box, or you can email info@savvyladies.org. And a question that we have for you is, how do I work through my to-do list when every new day adds more and more to-dos that I didn't plan for?
Yes, that is so hard, right? It's like you have your intention list, and then it's like somebody comes in and messes the whole thing up, right? Well, look, it happens to all of us. And the way really is to be strategic about what's on the list, and does it really need to happen now? So I always tell people to take a pause, just like I was talking about, being able, the meditation thing, but pausing and saying, like, does that need to happen today? Am I the person who needs to do it? Really evaluating it before you just go into go mode, right? Or, can I do this tomorrow? Are the things that are on my list today absolutely necessary? Do I have to do it? Just really evaluating the weight of those to-dos can really be helpful.
Okay, thank you. Another question we have for you is, I'm someone that always says yes at work and then feels overwhelmed by everything I have to do. If I start to say no, I'm afraid that my boss and colleagues will think I'm not working hard enough. Do you have some suggestions for that?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, you're a doer. I'm the same way. I was always like, me, I'll do it. But then you get burnt out. So again, being strategic about what you say yes to. What is the best use of your time? Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. That's for everything. I'm a big believer into outsourcing. I have a whole online course about it's basically how to tap into your own productivity style so that you can be more efficient. And one of the things is outsourcing. And being able to really say, okay, if I did take this on, how could someone support me and do this? But also, just because you can clean your bathroom or you can run to the store and pick up the groceries doesn't mean that you should, right? If you can be using your skills for something else. So really evaluate what you're saying yes to. Do you need to really be doing that other than trying to get the shiny star, right? Is that really going to propel your influence in the business, in your company, to be able to say, hey, she's our go-to for this. Like, she's the expert in that. Like, if that's what you want to be known for, then go ahead and do it. But if it's just busy work, or it's just sort of like, so that I can show that I'm doing things, I'd probably question whether or not I'd say yes to that.
All right, thanks. Another question is, I've always struggled with long-term projects and deadlines that are very far away. I can't seem to work on something until it needs to be done immediately. How do I stop myself from doing that and make myself work on these projects little by little?
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? It's like if you're given 2 months to do something, it'll take you 2 months to do it. If you're given 2 hours to do it, you'll do it in 2 hours, right? You really stretch to where the deadline is. Because I love deadlines as a TV producer, I give myself deadlines a lot. So I kind of trick myself. So I'll take a task that's, a long-term thing, and I'll look at it and I'll break it up into bite-sized pieces. So like, say the book, right? A lot of people do ask me, how do you write a book? How do you get out there in a bigger way? I look at that as not one task, but 10, 15 tasks, whatever it is that's in there that you have to do the little pieces. And then give yourself deadlines for each of those, right? To get you to that finish line. Like, maybe some of it is research, and some of it is drafting something, and some of it is getting, some support or asking people for help or whatever it is. But really taking that really big, long deadline and cutting it up into bite-sized pieces and giving yourself some time to do it, but also understanding and knowing yourself, how long is it actually going to take you to do that task? That's one of the biggest problems that people have, because they say, it'll just take me 5 minutes. And then 35 minutes later, you're still working on that thing that was supposed to take you 5 minutes, right? It was like, I'm going to just do it for 5 minutes before I run out the door. And then you're late to the lunch you were supposed to be at, an hour ago. So really honing in on how long does it take me to do tasks, right? How long will it take me to do these tasks? Sometimes you just have to time yourself. to see how long will it really take, and then and really taking those and cutting them up into bite-sized pieces so that you can get to the goal and set those deadlines along the way.
Okay. And I think this is the last question for you. Someone's asking, what are your thoughts on the belief that it's good to take short breaks during the workday so that you stay focused when you should be working? Have you found if this is helpful?
Yes. So short breaks, that's a great way to go, right? So that Pomodoro technique that I mentioned to you, part of that is that you do 25 minutes of targeted work and then you take a 10 or 15-minute break. Kind of cool off your brain a little bit, maybe do a little bit of walking, get yourself out of the zone so you're not just like, oh, I'm just staring at this computer hoping it'll do things. Being able to sometimes go outside, walk around a little bit, give yourself a break so that when you sit back down, you're reinvigorated. Music can also really help to set a little bit of, the music of your choice. There was this study that was done that if you listen to the music of your choice for, I think it was not even that long, like 5 minutes, it will really like reinvigorate you so that you can get more done and be more productive.
Okay. Great. Well, those are the questions we have. So I want to thank you again, Paula, for an excellent presentation. Thanks for all those tips and resources as well.
Of course.
I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And again, as a reminder, we'll be sending out this information here, but you can text List Lover to 44222. We'll be sending that in email as well. So thanks everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Paula.
Thank you. See you guys soon.
Bye-bye.